On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1976. We're going to be having a listen to Brad Delp's vocal performance on More Than a Feeling. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So this is one of my favourite songs of all time, as you can tell from my hair, the kind of music that I'm into. This ticks every box that I listen out for, and when I first heard this song, I don't know how old I was, maybe 7 or 8, and it was obviously part of my dad's record collection, and he put it on the turntable, and I just instantly loved it. And at that point I didn't know anything about music, didn't play the guitar, hadn't even attempted to try and start singing yet. Couldn't sing, but there's just something about this song. But I have been asked to take a look at Brad Delp's vocal for this particular video. We'll have the vocal pitch monitor up on screen as well, and I'm probably going to be jumping into this every second, just to point out a thing here and there, because there is so much to point out. But we will jump into it and see how Brad gets on.
I looked out this morning and the sun was gone.
And I did warn you, I was going to jump into this a lot. Just the intro, the D to the C, the B, the G, back up to the D. It's not only just the progression that's, really nice, a very common progression, but it's common because the ear likes it. And the way that we resolve back to the D, and it's a nice 4/4 time signature, something that's accessible for everyone. You can tap your foot to it. But, with the riff, I'm just going to grab the guitar, and hopefully it's not going to be kind of too distorted. But yeah, with the riff, this just the picking, it's really nice. And the fact that it's done on a 12 string is just a huge part of it. It means that our high E string, B string and G string have the octave above, so you're getting double the sound. You're getting such a rich full sound from the guitar. We're just going to have another quick listen, and I have put the guitar away because otherwise this video is going to go on for years. But so listen. And we've got the harmonics on the guitar as well, over the top of, already we're only a few seconds in, we've got a really nice fade in, we've got just a great line, just great picking, really well played on a 12 string, actually panned left and right. I don't know whether that's a remaster thing, but it sounds like we've got, two 12 strings going on, so you get such a rich sound. And then really nice drum fill going into it, and that's Sib Hashim on those drums. Throughout this song, you can listen to any instrument just by itself and appreciate it throughout the whole song. And the drums are no exception when you're listening in for so many parts within this song that stand out from that perspective, like from the rhythm. The tempo is absolutely solid, of course, and it just really fits the energy of the song, having that freedom as well to chop and change, but not noticeably so that you think, oh, it's suddenly speeded up. It's just got a really nice ebb and flow to it.
And the sun was gone. Turned on some music to start my day.
Okay, right, let's get into Brad's vocal. Because with this first vocal that we hear, the first verse, I'm going to shock you because we've already covered an octave. So there's an octave's worth of range already in Brad's voice, and this is the thing about this song. We know that later on, it gets crazy as to the range that Brad covers, but this is the point that you don't realise that Brad has already sung an octave's worth of notes and having that range in his voice so seemingly easily, and we're going to listen to it again. So we've got the graph full screen now, so we can see it a little bit more clearly as we listen through.
I this morning and the sun was gone. Turned
And we want to look out here, the D3 that we just went down to.
on some music to start my day.
And here, the D4, that's an octave higher than the note that we just heard. Like I said, this is absolutely going to fly under your radar because of how tonally consistent this all is from Brad. I mean, I say it in great songs, you have an octave's worth of range from the verse to the chorus, and great singers have that ability. We've already had that at the beginning of the song.
Lost myself in a familiar song.
And just to jump in again, the lyrical content, the way that Brad has manipulated these words to fit, or to sound like they fit better than they actually should do. So going back to, have a listen again, that familiar song, we'll take it back a bit further.
Lost myself in a familiar song.
That, I lost myself in a familiar song. He sings it in such a way that he kind of gets away with going na 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 1 2 3 4. He kind of gets those syllables, but in a familiar song 5. There are 6 syllables. So how did he make that into 4 syllables? So just the way that he kind of blends that sound, that word, into something that shouldn't really fit, but it does. But the way that he's manipulated, the way that he's delivered that word.
Lost myself in a familiar song.
I still don't know how he does that. Let's listen on.
I close my eyes.
And here we go. We're up to now a D5. So, pre-chorus, we're now up to the D5, covered 2 octaves worth of range. If we've still got the piano up on screen, the D5 is now up here. So we've gone all the way, we've got all of this, basically, you know, we've gone beyond the top end of the tenor range here. We're now kind of counter tenor range, technically. Oh, you can see that at the top, it is labelled. So, yeah, we are now just in the stratosphere of where male vocalists would, I mean, love to be able to go. But Brad is doing this, and we're in the pre-chorus. We haven't even hit the chorus yet, and we haven't hit any crazy screams. And just technique-wise, the way that he goes into that D5 in more of a falsetto, but then comes back down and leans into chest voice. And here's another thing. On the B4, that note from Brad was flat. And, I mean, this is one of those for auto-tune and pitch correction fans out there. Who ever knew that that note wasn't right? Or, it, you know, wasn't bang on, you know, B4, 440 hertz tuning, as the song is tuned to, or the instrumentation is tuned to, while they recorded this in the studio. So, let's have a listen to that again. And I mean, that in a nutshell is why you lose the expression when you apply pitch correction and auto tune to a human voice, because that is the perfect place to hit for the sound that we get and the emotion that we get, the connection that we get from Brad's vocal. So we're ever so slightly flat, and it's not as if, you know, Brad sings it and then corrects it because he realizes, oh, I'm a little bit flat. He knows the note he's hitting, and that's just where it sits. That's the thing about music. You can't conform it to 440 hertz tuning, because this is something that, yeah, we've developed in order to, you know, have lines that we can see where notes are. The problem is that, yeah, everything's now getting snapped to these lines when it shouldn't really be, because the voice and just music in general has to have the freedom to sit where it does naturally. I love the way that when we get into the chorus, you're not hit with the vocal melody instantly. You have to wait. You have to appreciate the riff. And just the way the guitars fade out in this section as well. It's almost like we're getting feedback from the guitars. I mean, this is just a masterpiece from a production perspective. But for me, it's just everything in one. Like I said at the beginning of this video, we've got just great technical ability instrumentally, vocally, and in the studio from a production perspective. Everything is just at the top level here. Again, I mean, we are flat of the C5, and by the way, flat means underneath the note, sharp means above the note, so the note is this line. So we are flat there of the C5, but absolutely does not matter. And the great thing about Brad's voice is that when he's holding these long notes, he's not going and just holding it straight as a note. He holds it straight, and conversely, he's not going walking away and applying vibrato the whole time. He's got this. If we take it back a little bit, you can see right at the bottom of the screen, it's a little bit obscured, but we've got this held note and then vibrato at the end. So we just get that little bit of expression that comes in just as he's ending that phrase. I mean, it's so subtle. Just that tiny detail, I mean, it makes such a difference. And I love, these tiny incidentals that are being thrown in by Sib on the drums. Just, tiny bits of hi-hat and, just touching the kit dynamically, just exactly where it needs to be, and just throwing in everything so tastefully. And you'll notice how, in the verses, we're with that rim shot on the snare rather than being centre snare like we are in the choruses.
The faces fade as the years go by, yet I still recall as I wander on, as clear as the sun in the summer sky.
And again, flat of the B4, not as flat this time from Brad, but it just goes to show that is where the note is. When you're listening to a great singer and a great band, but especially a vocalist in isolation, and I have actually isolated the vocals, so I might take the backing down a little bit, but I mean, the backing's just great as well, so it's a bit of a sin to do that. But it just goes to show that the best note will be found by great singers, because great singers aren't looking at this graph when they're singing, trying to adjust their pitch to find 440 hertz tuning. And this is the thing, that when you're learning to sing, I mean, this can be an invaluable tool to find where the notes are and to work at your pitch. But eventually, you're going to want to get rid of this, because your muscle memory will now know where those notes are, and you'll start to subconsciously hit just the best note for that particular arrangement, for the chords that you're hearing in the background. I've said before about when you're performing with a band and instruments, they might be ever so slightly out of tune with each other, but it's not noticeable to the ear. But you will naturally pick the average, the mean of everything that you can hear, and you'll hit exactly the right note, which might be slightly flat of this graph, but it is perfect for the tuning of the instruments and those incremental differences in the instruments behind you. And, great singers just do this naturally. Even just that snare going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, actually having that emphasis, again, I don't want to jump into this too much, but like I said, every instrument you can listen out for, and we've got that feedback just fading out into the chorus again. With either a little bit of vibrato on the fretboard, but maybe a little bit of whammy bar, just adding that in there to give that vibrato, because it seems like it's not, well, we can't hear the fretboard. Sometimes when you've got feedback going and you start to apply a little bit of a wider vibrato, you can hear a little bit of the scratching on the fretboard, whereas this is super smooth, so it might be on whammy bar. And just a quick word on Brad's pitch here. You know, the C5 here, I think we're a little bit flat, but then just locked in on the A4, G4, and again G4 solid. Actually a little bit sharp of the F sharp 4, but yeah, this is the point, that he's just got this freedom to go where he wants. So now we're up to the E5, and again this held note. We actually ascend with the D5. This is the same note previously that we had in that more falsetto sound, whereas Brad now is not going up into this light sound. He's now getting into a really clean head voice, and he's continuing it up to the E5. So we're now even higher than we were previously, and the E5, let me try and get the arrow again on the screen so you can see. The E5 is going to be up here. So again, we've just extended it. We said about the D5, we've just gone a tone higher than that. A tone is 2 semitones, so 2 keys on the piano. But let's get back into it. Really important thing to mention here is with the guitar solo, obviously being a guitar guy myself, this was one of the first solos I probably ever heard, but it's the vibrato, how even it is, how controlled it is, and how it sits in the song, because the vibrato of the guitar is going to be very similar to that of Brad's lead vocal. So it's not too fast, it's not too slow, it's just matching this whole song is just relevant to itself. Everything in the song, everything in the band is relevant to each other. They're just simulating what each other are doing. And I haven't even mentioned the bass. I mean, listen to some of the bass lines going on, the way that it jumps around, but you don't notice it because it's all so relevant. That's the point, that nothing's really taking the limelight here. The only thing that takes the limelight is the instrument that you are listening to. And then you realize, oh wow, there's so much cool stuff in there. And yeah, just go back to the beginning, listen to then the bass. Go back to the beginning, listen to then the drums. Go back to the beginning, listen to the guitars. Go back to the beginning, listen to Brad's voice. Go back to the beginning and listen to Brad's harmony vocals to his own voice going on in the background. But let's get back into it. Harmony guitar at the end, controlled vibrato, and just melodic. That's the point. I mean, this whole song is melodic, but a guitar solo that isn't a million notes a second. It's keeping the relevance and keeping the melody so strong that when you're kind of singing this song back in your head, or you might be humming it or whistling it, you can sing the guitar solo, and that is such a huge part of so many huge hits. The guitar solo has been a voice that you can replicate, and that's why it works, because it is something that we relate to. When there's a million notes a second that are happening just all the time, we can't relate to that, we can't sing that back. So it's one of those things about great songs, that they have these hooks, and when you have an instrument that comes in, and Brad's voice is here, when you've got a guitar solo, Brad's voice goes to the side of the stage. And I'm just talking about, you know, when you've got headphones on, when you're listening to this, this is effectively what's happening. Brad has now gone to the side of the stage and the guitar is now your voice. If that guitar comes in and starts, you know, singing, 10 notes a second, 15 notes a second, it's totally irrelevant to the guy that we've just been listening to. But you want this guy, the guitar, to have the same kind of voice as the one we've been listening to keep its relevance and to keep the melody throughout the whole song. And that's exactly what we get here. So you'll hear this in loads of huge hits, that guitar has the same kind of voice as the guy who's just moved aside for us to hear it. Love the way we had that feedback now into harmonic. More harmonics.
I hide in my music, forget the day, and dream of a girl I used to know. I close my eyes and she slipped.
There we go again. This more falsetto, airy sound on the D5, whereas before we had that D5 again showing that Brad had access to these notes either in more falsetto sound, but also in a cleaner head voice sound if he wanted it as well. So these vocal registers overlapped. So it means that he can give a different colour and a different expression to these notes if he wants to. And where we had that a little bit of a rundown, and listen to the guitar. It just backs up what I said a second ago about the guitar being the same voice as the lead vocal. Have another listen. So we've gone, and we go, the guitar is doing exactly the same as what we've just heard the vocalist do, but it's then going to take over. The guitar has now gone higher. And the relevance is Brad has gone higher after the guitar's gone higher. So, I mean, you can look at this in such depth, and we could go into this kind of stuff for years. So we actually get the call and response, call and response. So the two voices are talking to each other. And I mean, the vocal pitch monitor is getting confused with just the notes that are going on here. But when I said about listening to this song through, listen to all of the elements, have a little bit of consideration for something that's going to fly under your radar, I guarantee it. Brad's harmony line on this. I'm going to have to get out the guitar to see exactly what's going on here. So we've got this. Okay, so I mean, you can see my fretboard. Look at where we are. We're on the B5 for the harmony line. I know that everyone's going to listen to the main line, and let's find out where that main line's going. So the main line that you're going to be picking out is those two notes there. But we're actually going from the A to the B. So that's our A5 and our B5s. We had previously that D5, you know, that was a very high note. We can take this all the way up to here. This is going to be our B5 with that A5 just underneath. You know, we've got easily the majority of the keyboard. I mean, Brad would have at his disposal with his vocal cords. But it's just crazy when you're listening out for these tiny details and all of the elements that make up this track. There is so much going on. Again, harmony vocals, harmony guitars. And there we go to the fade out. So, I mean, right at the end there, again, the production side of things, the way that we've obviously got a wet sound, meaning that there's effects on there. We've got, you know, reverb, the way that with that fade out, the voice almost seems to be overtaken by, I'm not sure whether this is Brad's voice, which, you know, it could have been because he had the ability to sing all of these notes on your high E string, going up to that B5. I'm not sure whether it's his voice or feedback of the guitars that have just been layered underneath. Everything about this song comes together, the lyrical content, the way that it's been produced, getting everything to sit in the same feel, the same mood from a production perspective as well as a performance perspective. So this is why for me, I mean, I just love this song when I heard it when I was, 7 or 8 years of age, but now that, you know, I've got into playing guitar, into production, into singing, you can appreciate it on such a deeper level. You know, I loved it before, and now I love it even more because of the extra insight you gain when you look at it in detail and you think, wow, this is just on a totally different level in every respect when I listen to this. And the fact that I'm into this kind of music anyway, obviously it means that subjectively I'm gonna, you know, just love it. We're going to call it a day here. Thank you again for requesting this particular song, and as always, keep the suggestions and requests coming in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think is the best song of all time, or what your favourite songs are, because yeah, maybe we can have a look at those in the future and just kind of break them down as to, you know, what makes them so great. Other than just listening to them and you liking them subjectively, it's great to dive into it a little bit more objectively to see how things relate to each other in the song and why it works so well. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!